Hi, I'm Margaret Coel. I'm the author of this book, Chief Left Hand. This is a history of the Arapaho people when they lived here in the Boulder area in the mid-1800s. So at one time they lived right here where we live today. And it's also a biography of one of their really great leaders. His name was Left Hand because he was left-handed, but his Arapaho name is Niwot, and the town of Niwot is named for him.
Great. And Margaret, can you tell us a little bit about your research methodologies and what you did to prepare
When I
this book?
started out to write this book, I didn't think I would be writing a book. I thought I would just be writing a magazine article. But I was very interested in Chief Left Hand because I had read that he could speak English. He could not only speak it, but he was fluent in English. So I really wanted to know how he learned to speak English. So I started reading everything that I could find about the Arapaho people and about Left Hand. And what I found was there wasn't that much available. So pretty soon, and very soon in fact, I was in archives looking at primary sources, which are letters, manuscripts, records, official government records from the time period in which he lived. So I was very quickly reading things that had been written about him by people who knew him and who had actually done different things with him, had interacted with him. So I kept finding more and more information. I learned that he learned to speak English from his brother-in-law, a white man who had married his sister and who taught him to speak English from the time he was a small child. So he was fluent in not only English, but in other Native American languages.
So I just thought of another question that I think would help here. Can you tell us a little about when the book was written?
Yes.
And how history is not something that is necessarily set in stone, and how it's this fluid, changing thing, and over time how we learn more, and probably how maybe you've learned a lot more since the book was written? Maybe.
You know, that's really true. History is not set in stone. And so I was able to uncover a lot of information about Left Hand and his life and his people when they were here in Colorado in the mid-1800s that had never been published before. So in a way, this book really added to what was already known about Left Hand and his people. But the book came out in 1981. So since that time, in more than 30 years now, other information has, of course, come to light, and other historians have been working in this field and have, found other things about Left Hand and his people. But I'm very happy that some of the conclusions that I reached based on the information that I had found has been substantiated. In other words, other historians have come along and found more things to say, yes, in fact, this is indeed what happened. So I'm happy about that. But the other thing is that things have turned up which I would have loved to have had for this book. And, all of a sudden they've appeared, maybe somebody donated them to a library or something in the last 30 years. And so that's been exciting to see other parts of this puzzle begin to fall into place.
Great. And now can you tell us about the project that you're working on now with the Boulder History Museum?
I am so excited to be part of the team that is putting together a wonderful exhibit on Niwot and his people, the Arapaho people, here in the Boulder area. And the exhibit is going to tell a lot about him and about what happened to him and what happened to his people. And so I have been working with this team. I'm a guest curator, one of them. There are many of us. But I've been part of this, and it's been really, really interesting to see how a museum exhibit comes together from the very beginning, from the first time we all sat around a table and said, well, what do we want to have in this exhibit, to today, where now I'm involved in writing some of the words that are going to go with the pictures that we have, that the museum staff has gathered, and with artifacts and with all kinds of wonderful things. It is just going to be a fabulous exhibit, and I'm very, very excited about it, and I'm very, very happy to be part of it.
Great. Do you have a favorite part of the exhibit, or something that you're really looking forward to, or the exhibit as a whole, or?
I think the exhibit as a whole is really going to be interesting, but of course my favorite part of it is the little piece that I'm working on and the part that I'm actually writing, and that does deal with Niwot, Left Hand, with his life, with how he grew up, how he was a boy, how he grew up and became a man, and the different things that he did, and the way that he worked so hard to have peace between his people and all the new people who were coming onto the plains, searching for gold and, you know, looking to set up ranches and settlements, and all on Arapaho lands. So, but Left Hand worked so hard to keep peace with all these newcomers flooding onto Arapaho land. So I'm excited to tell his story again, and in a different way, at the museum with all the artifacts and all that they're collecting. So I think it's just going to be a wonderful exhibit, as I said, and I like all of it.
And you may have answered this, but I want to ask, is there like one thing that you've learned about Chief Niwot that you would want people to walk away knowing about him and about his life? If you had to choose one thing.
One thing, that he was a really unselfish man, that he thought first about what was best for his people. What could he do to help the Arapaho people, even if it meant putting his life in jeopardy? And he did that. He was very, very unselfish, and he was very brave, very brave. At one point, he actually went out himself and ransomed some children who had been captured by the Cheyennes. And he ransomed them. He gave his own buffalo robes, his own ponies, to bring these children back. And then he took them and turned them over to the soldiers. And in doing that, he might have been killed. They might have killed him for doing something like that, for even, you know, trying to help these white children. That would not have been a good thing. But he did it. And then there were other chiefs who had gone out to try to ransom other children. So he, Left Hand, gave himself as a hostage. He stayed with the soldiers. He said, I will stay here with you until the other chiefs can bring in more children. This was incredible. It was so brave and so unselfish. And he did it because he wanted to have peace between his people and all the white people coming onto the plains. He wanted peace. So he said, I will do this as a proof that I'm friendly. Our people are friendly. We want peace with you.
Great. Thank you, Margaret Coel.